We got leaks for the next Elder Scrolls and a big Black Panther game. Also some updates on Assassin's Creed Shadows, a launch date for a big open world title, and way more gaming news to go over. So sit back and let's go. Let's start with NetEase, the Chinese gaming giant that is behind Marvel Rivals, which now has 40 million players and launched the final Fantastic Four characters this week. It's a huge success, but that did not stop them from laying off their entire US support studio. And this is seemingly just the start of their pullback on Western funding. NetEase, for example, put money in Rebel Wolves, the veteran Witcher developers that are making the very promising looking Blood of the Dawnwalker. They bought Grasshopper from Suda51, behind No More Heroes, and Lollipop Chainsaw, put a lot of money behind a studio from the Yakuza creator who's working on a new single-player game. And in February 2023, they bought Quantic Dream, who still has not made a game since Detroit Become Human in 2018. They announced Star Wars Eclipse in December 2021, but we have not had an update on that. Well, it might never see the light of day. Because out of nowhere, and kind of like a big 180, Source told GameFile that they are planning to sell or shut down these foreign studios and focus on their Chinese teams instead. And especially in this day and age, it will be hard to find companies interested in these game studios. Like we also learned this week from an interview with Shuei Yoshida by Colin Moriarty, that Quantic Dream was always a possible candidate for Sony to purchase. Like they of course also did Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls exclusively for PlayStation, but because the leadership with David Cage is known to be very toxic, Sony shied away from such purchase. So NetEase pulling funding could mean the end of Quantic Dream. I think Rebel Wolves will be fine because Bandai is publishing Blood of the Dawnwalker, so they will likely see that through. But yeah, overall this is a continuation of the trend where publishers shut down game teams in regions that are just very expensive. Like most recently, Ubisoft closed the development team behind X-Defiant. Of course the game wasn't super successful, but they also noted that it was because they had a full team in San Francisco work on the post-launch content, which cost them a lot. Labor in China is way cheaper, and it seems that these companies now realize that they don't need developers from overseas to work on successful AAA games for the Western audience, so that's seemingly why they're cutting the funding. And well, it's kind of true, like Black Myth Wukong, Stellar Blade, Marvel Rivals, Infinity Nikki, Once Human, The First Descendant, they were all successful at least when they came out. And all the MiHoYo games are of course still doing great as well. And some of the most exciting upcoming games, Crimson Desert and Phantom Blade Zero, are all from Korean and Chinese developers as well. You could argue that in these last few years, the Chinese and Korean titles are slowly but surely overtaking the big Western games with more and more people playing them. And this might be bad news for Western developers if the games we play here are more and more made in countries like China. But it is something that seems unstoppable at this point. So we will have to wait and see what the NetEase situation will lead to. Let me know what you think of this situation, of course, in the comments down below. Now, Tom Henderson from Insider Gaming got new Assassin's Creed Shadows insights from sources inside Ubisoft. Like, if you were still worried about another delay, there really does not seem to be a reason, as Ubisoft is confident on releasing Shadows on March 20th. With one source stating that the game is now pretty much done. Not really a surprise, but I wanted to put it out there. Tom Henderson also notes that the reviews for the game are seemingly planned to go live on March 18th, so that would be 2 days before launch. And that's good news, as reviews usually go live the day before when the game is out in New Zealand and Australia, so it does show a bit of confidence. And according to Tom Henderson, Shadows right now is around the 300,000 pre-orders, and Odyssey's day one player numbers were between the 400,000 and 450. So they got like still almost a month to get those final pre-orders to that level, which I think is possible. The marketing right now is also kind of slow, and I did a poll during my stream where 30% of the people said that they will pre-order the game but did not do that yet. And of course, smart to wait for the reviews, then you still have time to pre-order and can then still get the first DLC for free. So again, I think the launch will be similar to Odyssey, which would be pretty successful. The question mostly is, will the game keep selling like Odyssey and Valhalla did over the years? Because that they still have a big core fan base is not really a surprise, but in this day and age with more live service games and competition, and of course the Assassin's Creed brand and especially Shadows getting some negative press, like, can they still reach the mainstream audience? Will they still show up and get this game to the 10 million sold? Quality is going to be very important. They need to have the word of mouth where it's like, yo, this new Assassin's Creed game is better than I expected. You should check it out. If that is what's going to happen, I do see that it will probably do well, but it's going to be fascinating. I at least can't wait to play it. We'll, of course, keep you up to date here. Now, it would be awesome if you could leave a like on this video. That would really help me out. And subscribe, because we post one of these big gaming news roundup videos every Sunday. Now let's do quick shots, news stories I will go over quickly. We got a launch date for Dune Awakening, the big new survival game from the Conan Exiles developers Funcom. The new trailer once again looks very cool. There's just a ton in this game, especially if you love the franchise. I think this will be a blast. Now there were previews as well for it recently, and one of the cool things we learned is that next to the big open sand map, there are also instant dungeons under the ground that offer more variety, like this plant-filled lab, for example, which looks kinda cool. I said it before, I wish this was more a traditional open-world single-player game, maybe with like optional co-op elements like Far Cry or Avatar, but I know a lot of people love the base building and other survival elements that this game will have. There were also some concerns, like the overall clunkiness, especially with the melee system, wasn't great. Performance was not great yet in this version. Can they fix that before May 20th is the question. It will then only launch on PC, by the way, with consoles later. Let me know if you will play this. I overall do think it will be a pretty successful launch. We know a sequel to Cyberpunk 2077 is in development at the new US studio of CD Projekt Red. And well, they're now looking at a lead encounter designer to create the most realistic and reactive crowd system in any game to date. So it seems like they want to make the world feel way more alive by having more realistic responses from the crowd if you probably do illegal things or pull out your gun. Something that could be really cool. Maybe you know about this NPC in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Okay then, partner.
No, you can't shoot me. My wife is having a baby.
While Rockstar is of course still the king with these NPC interactions. Maybe CDPR wants to come for the crown. So they are switching engine to Unreal for this next Cyberpunk, by the way, but it should still be first person. Although I would be down for an optional third person option as well. Let me know if you would agree in the comments down below. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth found huge success on PC. It was number 3 in the best-selling games list of January for the US, with the twin pack being a 16. So great news for one of my favorite games of the last years that we know underperformed on PS5 last year. Part 3 should not be a PlayStation exclusive anymore, but likely launch at least day 1 on PC as well as PlayStation, which I think overall is good news. Time for the rumor roundup, where we go over the biggest leaks of the week, and I give stars, with 3 being I believe it, and 1 being let's take this with a huge grain of salt. Ecstasis went over things he heard for Elder Scrolls 6, as compiled on Reddit by Ice Popsicle Dragon. The big things are that it should seemingly include naval combat and shipbuilding similar to Starfield. So that we could also like explore islands off the coast and yeah, fight other ships. Not something that I'm looking forward to in an Elder Scrolls game, but let me know if that sounds fun to you in the comments down below. There should also be dragons. The progression system is much more flexible, abandoning classes for a natural progression and better combat. Okay. It should have 12 to 13 big cities and take place in Hammerfell and High Rock. But this part where he says we could see it in July 2025, like I'm not sure what is happening in that month, but if they show a proper look at the game, it would more likely be at the Xbox Showcase in June. 2 stars for this overall. This leaker has been right many times, but of course things could change, as we know the game is still early, and I think there's no reason for them to show it this year, but we will see. And we got a similar rumor for the upcoming Black Panther game, and this is not the Rise of Hydra one, but the one from Cliffhanger Games from former Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War developers. They're now working on this game under EA, and it sounds pretty cool, so we seemingly choose the next Black Panther out of multiple characters. T'Challa, M'Baku, Asari, Shuri, Killmonger, and more, and all of them have different weapons, armor, and gadgets, and the story will react based on your choices. Of course, there will be huge explorable cities. Like, this is gonna be a semi-open world third-person game in that amazing Black Panther universe, and I'm all for it. Now, we learned about the development in July 2023, so it's still early, I think. 2027 or 2028, like one of the final PS5 Xbox Series generation games. NEA's marketing cycles are very short, so we will see this game and then it will come out like 6 months later max. So it will be a while, I think, before we see it. I give it 2 stars. Ghost of Hope has been right, but also wrong. And things can, of course, change, but I'll be keeping you up to date on this game, of course, for sure. This coming week, Monster Hunter Wilds releases, and we will of course have tips and tricks for that. I'm really looking forward to the launch. Also, new Assassin's Creed Shadows videos will be coming your way. We'll do my Monday stream, going over the gaming news of course, so link to that in the video description. Hope you can join. And of course, a gaming news roundup like this at the end of the week. We, by the way, went hands-on with Crimson Desert. You can check out that video by clicking on the screen, and I will speak to you very soon. Goodbye.